Scientists have postulated that a mere 13.8 billion years ago the Big Bang expansion occurred. The Big Bang theory has been accepted by a majority of scientists today. It theorizes that a large quantity of nothing decided to pack tightly together and then explode outward into hydrogen and helium. This gas is said to have flowed outward through frictionless space to eventually form stars, galaxies, planets, and moons. It all sounds so simple, like a fairy tale. And that is all it is. In the beginning, there was no matter, just nothingness. Then this nothingness condensed by gravity into a single, tiny spot, and it decided to explode. That explosion produced protons, neutrons, and electrons which flowed outward at incredible speed throughout empty space. As these protons, neutrons, and electrons hurled themselves outward at supersonic speed, they are said to have formed themselves into atomic structures of mutually orbiting hydrogen and helium atoms. Gradually, the outward racing atoms are said to have begun circling one another, producing gas clouds which then pushed together into stars. The Big Bang theory is based on theoretical extremes. It may look good in math calculations, but it can't actually happen. A tiny bit of nothing packed so tightly together that it blew up and produced all the matter in the universe. Seriously now, this is madness. It is a bunch of armchair calculations, and nothing else. It is easy to theorize on paper. The Big Bang is a theoretical extreme, just as a black hole is. It is easy to theorize that something is true, when it has never been seen and there is no definitive evidence that it exists or ever happened. But let us not mistake Disneyland theories for science. Nothingness cannot produce heat. The intense heat caused by the exploding nothingness is said to have changed the nothingness into protons, neutrons, and electrons. First, an empty vacuum in the extreme cold of outer space cannot get hot by itself. Second, an empty void cannot magically change itself into matter. Third, there can be no heat without an energy source. The intense heat caused by the exploding nothingness is said to have changed the nothingness into protons, neutrons, and electrons. There is no way to unite the particles. As the particles rush outward from the central explosion, they would keep getting farther and farther apart from one another. Outer space is frictionless, and there would be no way to slow the particles. The Big Bang is postulated on a totally empty space, devoid of all matter, in which a single explosion fills it with outward flowing matter. There would be no way those particles could ever slow. The particles would maintain the same speed and direction forever. Assuming the particles were moving outward through totally empty space, there is no way they could change direction. They could not get together and begin circling one another. There is no way to slow the particles. They are traveling at supersonic speed, and every kilometer would separate them farther from one another. There is no way to change the direction of even one particle. They would keep racing on forever, never slowing, never changing direction. There is no way to get the particles to form into atoms or cluster into gaseous clouds. Angular momentum would be needed, and the laws of physics could not produce it. How could their atomic structures originate? Atoms, even hydrogen and helium, have complex structures. There is no way that outward shooting particles, continually separating farther from each other as they travel, could arrange themselves into atomic structures. Neither hydrogen nor helium in outer space would clump together. In fact, there is no gas on Earth that clumps together. Gas pushes apart. It does not push together. Separated atoms of hydrogen and helium would be even less likely to clump together in outer space. Gas in outer space which was circling a common center would fly apart, not condense together. As you can see, we have just scratched the surface on just the explosion. We already have a faulty foundation that defies every law of physics. This theory implodes immediately and we haven't even finished either stellar or planetary evolution. Then there is human evolution and the inexplicable DNA, and the human eye, which still baffles to this day. If you could not be convinced that a simple crayon came into existence from nothingness, then why would you believe the entire solar system did? All of creation screams of a creator. I am the Alpha and the Omega, says the Lord God, who is, and who was, and who is to come. The Almighty.